Is there a social issue your students are passionate about? PBL lets students use their musical skills to address it. Today's guest shares how to design projects that spark creativity, collaboration, and real world application of musical knowledge. Welcome to Pass the Baton, empowering students in music education. Here, we amplify the voices of music teachers around the world who are passing the baton and creating environments where the music students are empowered. Together, we can help students transform from passive consumers to vibrant creatives. Welcome back to the Pass the Baton podcast. I'm Catherine Finch.
And I'm Teresa Hoover. We are so glad to be with you here today.
Yeah.
So, Catherine, we're recording this right now, mid-April.
Yep.
How's it going?
It will be, it's busy. I should say that it's busy. We are starting the week. This is the last week before the fifth graders go into the gym to set up our stage, to do our whole musical. So while it's exciting and super fun, I'm sitting here thinking, oh my goodness, after this, I need to do XYZ to get myself ready for the week, to help get the kids ready for the week. So yeah, busy and fun.
Okay,
and
good.
Fun. Yes.
Glad to hear that it's fun. And yes. Are the students are enjoying themselves as well?
For sure. This is when, like you support them and you hold them up until then you start to let go, and you just, the whole thing starts to happen, and you see kids in the back with the light board and the soundboard and the props, and they're on stage doing their thing. And it's just really fun to kind of have that let go moment. And they do it as a group, as an ensemble. It's fun to see.
Oh, that's really exciting. Good. I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah. And where are you for this week?
Oof. Very similar, but for different reasons.
Okay.
We are wrapping up the semester. It is coming to an end really quickly, which, is kind of fun in that a semester coming to an end is good, but it's also like, oh goodness, is there enough time to do all the things I have to do between
that means,
now and the end?
Right. I'm sure that means a lot of things are due.
Yes. So when we are done here, I will be writing and writing and writing. But, it's just part of what it is. And it is exciting because I'm, finishing up second year of this PhD is wonderful. But what I appreciate through all of it is that we still get to do fun things like this and podcast interviews. So
and meet new people. And that's refreshing. That's a great thing to like continue my day. Now I'm ready to do the things because I'm inspired by other people for sure.
No, I 100% agree. It's a good way to start the day. So, so today's guest, was awesome. I'm energized after talking to them. I'm excited about moving forward. I feel like project-based learning is something that we hear a lot these days in education. We hear that PBL, but sometimes it just feels like it feels like it doesn't fit in music education, right? Do you ever feel like that?
Sure. I mean, right. Sometimes it is always presented in a general education term. So you're left to translate it to your own subject, your own area at times.
Right. And I feel like today's guest, Yeshima, really helped us do that. So now I feel like, oh, okay, not only can this work in a music classroom, but it can work really well and it can be a really good thing.
Yeah. And they also were like, you can do this with littles. You can do this in elementary general music class, which is really awesome to hear because there's so many of us in that boat. And there's so many of us that can really use PBL to excite the children and engage them and empower them in their learning process in music class.
Yep. 100%. So before we get to today's interview, we want to remind you that you can find show notes in your podcast player or below the video in YouTube, and definitely check those out. There are some really great resources that our guest shared today.
Yes. And if you like today's interview, which I know you will, please consider giving Pass the Baton some a subscribe or a follow, leaving a review. All those things really help us get the message out.
Yep. And then in addition to that, don't forget we have the Buy Me a Coffee site. And on that site, for less than the cost of a cup of coffee, you can join the Pass the Baton Coffee Club, which is just a community that's passionate about student ownership. So please consider checking that out. The link is also in the show notes. Okay, welcome back, everyone. We are excited to be joined by today's guest to talk about a topic that Catherine and I are both really excited about, project-based learning. So welcome, Yeshima. We're so glad to have you here.
Thank
This is really
you.
great.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Very excited to chat with you today.
of course. So let's start things off. Can you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about your background and what you're up to these days in music education.
Yeah, so my background is in music education, obviously. I have, a bachelor's in music ed, a master's in percussion performance, and I'm working on my PhD in music education right now at the University of Kentucky. Go Cats! Um, yeah, so basically, yeah, my background, I started out teaching music right out of the gate. Went to Texas to teach high school band and percussion and absolutely loved it because, I was in college and we did all this higher level stuff, and wanted to incorporate what I knew into that ensemble. And so I did. And it was an amazing experience. Learned a lot in Texas. And then I discovered elementary general music through Texas Music Educators Association. I went to this huge, right? Huge conference, biggest in the world for music education. And I ended up hearing all these drums down the hall, and I was just sort of lured in by the rhythm and sat in the session and just was like, what is this? What are we doing? Who are the teachers in this room doing all the drumming stuff? Because I want to be like them. That looks like fun. And so Jim Solomon was the one who was teaching that session that day, and I loved it. So I started doing elementary general music. Discovered all the things, right? Like it's like this endless sea of wonder when you start doing elementary general music. And so that's what I did for several years. I did it down there in Texas, and then I moved back home to Kentucky. So that's where I'm originally from, Louisville, Kentucky. And kind of dabbled in band and general music while I was there for several years, like 16, maybe years. And just left on education leave for my PhD to study with a master drummer in Africa and also to finish my PhD. So I left a really amazing elementary general music program in school and community that I was at for 4 years and just absolutely loved the place. I'm going to give a shout out to Bloom Elementary because we're going to talk about them here in a minute with project-based learning because that's where I started my journey with project-based learning. Now, interim, like in between, right before the elementary general music at Bloom Elementary, I was the district music specialist for all of Jefferson County Public Schools, which is over 200 schools, K through 12. So overseeing the professional development, the all county groups, all those types of things, K through 12, band, choir, orchestra, music. And so I guess I should say I started down the road of project-based learning at that time, and then I kind of right into the elementary classroom with it because I started learning back then. And I was like, because we were going to roll it out in our district. So we had to learn it first before we taught the teachers this. Yeah, so that's my background. I'm sticking with it. And right now I'm currently, like I said, PhD in music ed. This is going on my 5th year, I believe, because I was kind of doing it while I was teaching. And I will say that is a difficult path to go if you decide to do that while you're teaching. But right now, currently, I'm not teaching in like a school system. I'm on my own as an entrepreneur with Smart LLC. So I own my own business, and I teach group drumming all over the country. Wherever anybody wants something to do with group drumming, sign me up. I'm there for you. But I've been doing that for the past couple of years, just only that, and it's been amazing. It's been amazing. So I work with kids as young as like 4 or 5, all the way up to aging adults over 80. Yeah, it's been amazing.
Yeah.
And that's where you and I first connected, when you were presenting on group drumming out at the Arizona Music Educator Conference, which
yeah.
yeah. And it's been really fun since then, seeing all of your social media posts with the various groups that you're doing the drumming with. And I can say, yes, I've seen pictures of people who are wee little kids, and then, and much older, which is wonderful to have so many people involved in music in that way.
Yeah. And I feel like it gives people who did not major in music or were not in an ensemble or something in high school or middle school, it gives them this empowerment and confidence. It's like, oh, I can do music. I am good at this, right? Like, because they can. So community music is a real thing.
Yeah, that's great.
A much needed thing. I think. I don't know. Maybe I'm a little biased, but
I feel like it definitely addresses the music for all. Right?
Yes. Hallelujah. Yes.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Music for all. It does. Yeah.
And many of us, have that in our philosophies, or things that our school wants for, we're doing music, we're giving music for all. And yet, are we? How do we make sure we address everyone? So so I think, we talked about this, we're going to talk about project-based learning, but can you help us understand like what project-based learning is, and maybe also what it's not?
Absolutely. So I was trained through Magnified Learning. They have this intense program where it's a semester long, semester a year. I can't remember because it was during the pandemic that I did it, but it was great. And there's lots of different ones throughout the country and the world, but that was the one that I chose to go with because our school district went with it. And what they say project-based learning is a framework of teaching and learning where students acquire content, knowledge, and skills to answer a driving question based on authentic, real-world problems, needs, challenges, or concerns. So it's very collaborative. We use lots of critical thinking, communication, creativity. There's a lot of student voice and choice within project-based learning. Let's see, what else? The thing that makes it different from a project is that this project-based learning involves a community partner that helps throughout the process of your project. So there's a community partnership. And of course, there's a publicly presented product, whether that's a concert, maybe it's a video that you post on Twitter or wherever, social media, YouTube, that's considered a presentation as well. And it involves ongoing process of feedback and revision as well as reflection. So that is what PBL is. PBL is not teacher driven. It's no teacher driven. No. It's big time student driven. PBL is not teacher driven. It's not about a cool project that you want to do with your students. Let's make a CD of all your favorite songs and you perform the CD. That's not. Now, if let's say that sounds cool and we can do that, but let's get a community partner involved and let's find out what the challenge is in the community or the concern. Like if you can tie it in to these upper level thinking type things, then it could be a project-based learning, but it's not about a cool project. PBL is also not whole group instruction.
Yeah. Something that really comes up when I hear you say all that is like, there's a strong purpose for the project, right? I mean, if you're connecting to a community piece, like there's a strong reason or a strong solution you're solving that kind of holds everybody together, moves everybody forward with the project. Would that be fair to say?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's something that the students are passionate about. It's student driven. So, if the students are passionate about global warming, well, then let's go research that. Let's go research some things about, how we can make this better in our community. And let's go get a community partner to help us along with this. Something that the students can get behind that they are passionate about.
Okay. But now my question is, how does this tie into the music classroom?
Yeah. Okay.
That sounds like the tricky part of it, right? Because you're saying we've got to have a community partner. We need to have this presentation. We need to have collaboration, student voice, student choice. That sounds like a lot for a music class, but I know that you're going to tell us.
Yes. And most music teachers are going to go, when do I find the time to teach that, to do that, and to do, like matching pitch or these rhythms or these other programs that we want to have, like a musical or whatever it is, right? Like, how are we going to do that too? Well, it's possible. What I did, and this is just how I approached it, I took one little piece at a time. Like I said, okay, I'm going to start with second grade this year, and I'm just going to do it with second grade because it would be way too much for anybody, even the greatest teacher in the world, to implement a PBL for every single grade level every single year. That's impossible. You don't see them enough. If you saw them every day, maybe that's different. But I only saw my students once a week for about 50 minutes each. So it took a project, one project for one grade level took about 4 months, 5 months to implement it the way that Magnify Learning says, hey, this is how we do this. So it's a very in-depth process. But you can also do those other things too, but it's embedded into the project. And they're activities, you can say, okay, we're going to do kind of like break up your class in different ways, right? So like, we're just going to, do these activities first, and then we're going to jump into our project the last so many minutes. And the project is the thing that keeps going. Those other things we're threading in. So there's, the time is a challenge, I will say that. But it's all doable. I mean, take one grade level at a time. Use somebody's work as a model. I've published all of mine because I did one a year. I was like, I'm going to really do this and do this the way that they are asking us to do this. And I did one a year because that was, our school was like, everybody needs to do this. Okay, I'm going to really try. So I got the training and everything put together over a course of several years, different lessons for each grade level. And it's published through F-Flat Books. And so people can always say, okay, I'm going to buy that and use this as a model, use this as the blueprint to do what's right for our community or what honors what my students' voices are, because my project might not work for your kids, Like, that's the thing, when you buy stuff from different places, you've got to put your own twist for your kids. You put your twist on it. But it does have the structure, the PBL elements of PBL, so that people can kind of use that as a model. I don't know if I answered your question. I think I got a little off track because I tend to do that sometimes.
No, that's okay. And this is all really good, because what I'm hearing you say is, first of all, don't dive in and try to do a project-based PBL activity with every single grade level. So that's good, right? That makes my teacher life better. And you're also suggesting that we build off of a model. So it's not starting from scratch, creating something from nothing. You're suggesting, like, start with something that you can then tweak and adjust and make it fit the needs of your students in your community.
Exactly. Yeah, make your life a lot easier, please, because my 4 months or 5 months might not I was just figuring it out. So it takes longer when you're doing something like that for the first time.
Yeah.
If you do it for the second or third time, it's going to be a lot shorter. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It'll be a lot easier.
Yeah. But that makes it sound manageable to me.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah.
And as music teachers, we need things that are manageable because there's so much on our plates all the time. So that's really good to hear.
I think what's nice too is, and then they can go to F-flat books and see what you have, because I think sometimes I know I like to see like big picture, the whole kind of thing laid out. Not that I'm going to use, like you said, and I'm not going to follow it exactly because my needs and my kids are different, but to be able to see an end product and see what that can look like is also really powerful for teachers too, to know like what would the end product, what is this all going to look like? How long is it going to take? And all those things are, have variables, but just again, to see a finished project is helpful.
Absolutely. And I think I remember your question because it had to do with like, how does this do it? What does this have to do with music? Like, how is music involved in project-based learning? So the way that I approached it was, and this is not the end all be all way, it's just one way. So I want to emphasize that. The way that I approached it was like, okay, what kind of thing can we do to bring awareness to an issue? So the students, they're figuring out what the challenges or the issues are in their community, and they bring this forward. They go research it. And what I did for elementary general music is I had their classroom teacher connect with me because I can't do all that research in my music classroom. So they did so there has to be buy-in, collaboration amongst teachers in the building, music teachers and other teachers in the building. But the other teachers, what they did, they were all on board with it because they had to do project-based learning too. Everybody in the building, it was a full building-wide thing. So they did the research part with their students. And sometimes the librarian, I collaborated with the librarian on a project. She did one part of the project and I did the music stuff. So the music stuff was that's the easy part, right? Like, 'cause you're the music teacher. So the collaboration with me and the other teachers was all the research for the project was done outside of my room. And we just had to figure out a timeline. You got to figure out your timeline. Okay, you're going to research this week, and then we're going to start this other thing in music this week, and then it rolls from there. So there is, there's a lot of planning. I will say that, pre-starting this. You have, especially if you collaborate with other teachers, lots of planning. But we always did something that was bringing awareness to an issue. So, for example, if you go on YouTube right now and you go look up Bloom Music Learning Channel, that's my kids, my students, who their project was we didn't have a general music teacher in every single school at that time. So their project was to make music lessons. I think this was in 2019, so pre-pandemic. They were making music lessons that other students could view and, learn something from, like learn a new rhythm or learn a scale or learn a song or whatever it was. Really easy stuff, right? So it's things that they learned in their own music classroom that they were going to share with other students. And, I feel like the highest level of learning something is if you can teach it, you know that you know it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the perfect assessment. Them making the video, putting it on YouTube. Like they did all the direction of the recording it, all that stuff. They did all that stuff. Pre-pandemic. Now everybody's doing it.
Yeah. I just say too, when we talk, Teresa and I talk about when we do those things too, that like you really learn as the teacher where there's pockets of misunderstanding or something that I thought they had the foundation and they don't. And so it's also a great tool for you as the teacher to be like, oh, we might need a whole group lesson to support this thinking and then send them back off, right? Like there's just something that they're not ready for. We skipped a step or whatever. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just for teachers to know that a lot of it is, if you've never done anything like this before, it's a lot of trial and error, and it's okay. Like it is okay because you're learning with the students. You're in the very present moment with your students.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I really liked how you were talking a moment ago about that collaboration piece with other teachers. I think it's so funny how siloed we get in education and in schools. We, music happens here and this happens here, and we segment the learning, but that's not real life. Right.
Yeah.
In real life, I don't separate, the math that I need for cooking versus the science that I need for cooking. It's all together. So I think it's really beautiful that you're collaborating and you're showing that these things don't have to be segmented, and we can work together towards a common goal. And I think that's really, really important for students and for teachers to experience.
Absolutely. It's holistic education is what it is. And yeah, they're learning so much more than music and project-based learning. I mean, they're learning geography, they're learning literacy skills, they're learning, job skills, they're learning all kinds of things all at once. And I mean, it would be very overwhelming to go back and look at those lessons and dissect, how many different subjects each one ties into. But somebody somewhere will do that at some point. But it is very holistic.
Yeah.
And you're communicating with people in your community as well. So it's going outside of your school. It's not just like, oh, we're in the school and this is where we learn. Right. We learn other places. We can learn from other places and other people.
Right. And we're part of a community. And that's so important. I think especially this day and age to remember that we are part of a larger community and that we have influence on that community, and we can be a contributing member to that community and all of those things.
Well, and creating music for the purpose of betterment of the community. What better way? I mean, Michael Jackson, I start when I do my presentations on project-based learning, this very thing. We sing "We Are the World" because Michael Jackson and all the group of people that sang that song, that was for a benefit, right? Like that was a benefit concert, and it raised lots of money so that for people in Africa. That's an example of project-based learning right there. Michael Jackson. We Are the World.
Yeah, and it is. So you mentioned the students making videos for other schools that maybe didn't have a music teacher. Is there any other examples that you could provide, like of what a project might look like for a grade level, just so we can kind of visualize what this might look like in a school?
Yeah. So there's that one. There's also this one that I did with second grade. It had to do with getting clean water for people in Africa. Now, it's, there's a book. There's a book for everything. Like, right? It was a little storybook. And the kids, so the project, they connected with, so the whole thing was getting clean water for people in Africa. That's the big community, right? The community thing, challenge or concern, clean water. In our community, they researched different places that could help take clean water, like whether it's send money to build, wells or whatever. I don't know. The kids researched all these things, and they found life straw. The life straw. You sip, your container and you sip it, and it's a filter. You know what I'm talking about?
Wow.
So the
I haven't seen that, but I believe you.
Yeah.
Okay. So the kids researched this. I had no idea what it was. In 2019, I was like, what is life straw? I don't even know. But they researched this, and they're like, we can send a lot of life straws over there. So they can put the water in the, the container and then sip it, and it is filtered and it's clean. I was like, that's genius. So just in 2022, I went to Africa. What did I have? What did I take with me? I took a life straw with me.
Hmm.
Yeah, these kids are smart. Let me tell you. Let them go. Let them do their thing because they know what they're doing. So yeah, they came up with that. They came up with all kinds of things they researched. But we did a benefit we had an organization in our city called Water Step. And so you you collect gently used shoes, and they, refurbish them some kind of way and make money off of them. And they use the money to help with clean water resources in different places. So that's what the one that we did. But the kids, the way that it turned into music, so that was a community partner, Water Step. But the way it turned into music was, it was a kind of like an awareness thing for other kids in our school. Hey, did you know about this? This is happening in these other places. So this class learned about it, but everybody in the school needs to know about it, not just one class. So they made a video. They put the music, they created the music to it. I think they used iPads or something. This is way back, y'all. This is 2019. They used iPads to create the music. They created a melody that was a message of like, hey, clean water. We need clean water in these different places. So I have that somewhere. It's on a Google something somewhere.
Yeah.
I'll send it to you. It was cute. They did a great job. But we sent that through the whole school, and that was their presentation.
Mm-hmm. That's really neat. That's cool. So they had the cause or the community partnership. They had the thing that they were passionate about, that they wanted to build awareness. And then they used their musical skills to help make sure that everyone else in the school was also aware of this organization.
Yes. And they made up the melody. They made up everything.
Yeah. That's really
cute. Because see, we teach kids how to do these things. Mm-hmm. Right? We teach them how to create a melody, improvise, what rhythms are, music from other cultures. We teach them all kinds of stuff. But they also come to us with information that we don't even know about.
Yep.
And until we do a project like this, we don't know that they know all that stuff.
Yeah.
Until they start putting it into action. And but yeah, it was fun to see them put it together.
I think it also goes back to like what we were talking about earlier, that when you want to teach a kid how to create a melody, sometimes they're like, why do I have to learn this? But then as soon as you're like, because we're going to make those videos and we really need to express this to the school, like, now listen, yeah, I need to know how to do the melody because I want to make my video to share my message, right? Like there's a strong purpose there now of like, oh yeah, I should make a melody that's going to be pleasing for people to hear, and it's going to work for the right. Like, it's just, it's neat. I need to know in a need to know basis. This is timely information that is going to help me do what I want to do. So,
right. And it's very, project-based learning is very strength-based learning, because the kids get in their groups, their peer groups, and each person has something that they're very strong at. Like I might be really good at writing a melody, but I can't write the lyrics. I can put this to your lyrics, but I can put this rhythm and this other thing to your lyrics, but I'm not good with words. But then this person over here is very much, they can figure out the words to it. This other person might be like, okay, I'll play the drum set on that part, or whatever it is. Each person, or you might even have somebody in the group who's, just good at determining whether that's good or not. Right? Like hear all the ideas and go, oh, this one right here I think that's going to work, and here's why. So everybody has their strength, and project-based learning really allows students to make music and do it in their way.
Mm-hmm. And I bet too, when I see my classmate, create the lyrics, me thinking I couldn't create lyrics, I'm sure there's times where each other influence each other and learn like, oh, that's how you make your lyrics. Maybe I can do that, or just, I think when they see their peers do things, then it becomes more accessible to them because I'm the same age. I'm, you're in my class. If you can do it, maybe I can do it. And that's cool for them to see.
Yeah. And that goes to social learning theory.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they do. Once
Mm-hmm.
they see, oh, this person did this, oh, I can do it too. I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
try that next time.
Mm-hmm.
It gives them confidence. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So it's encouraging to hear that this all started because your school district said, hey, you need to learn this thing. They said to you, you need to learn about project-based learning, and the whole school's going to learn about it. And I think sometimes we get in those situations and we roll our eyes and we go, yeah, okay, sure. This is an all school thing that's not going to apply. But it sounds like you've really found ways that this not only applies to music, but is beneficial to students musically. And I'm imagining you wouldn't have taken the time to continue doing the work and putting out a book and doing all of that if it wasn't beneficial to students. So it's encouraging. If you had to just kind of sum up, what would you say? Like, what's one of the biggest benefits for doing this in a music classroom?
Well, students discover their strengths, their purpose, where they fit in the world, which is big, but in the classroom world, all the way through the community, and so on. I believe it really shows teachers. It improves. I'm so on social emotional learning right now because of my dissertation, so I see everything through that lens right now. Yeah. But what it increases the teacher and student engagement in their relationships, but it also improves student to student relationships. So we're getting, to know one another a lot better. Because you hardly see that when you do full group instruction. So facilitating, like being the facilitator, I believe it really improves relationships between teachers and students. Yeah, I'd say those are the two biggest ones. Yeah, the student empowerment piece.
Yeah, those are big ones.
Yes.
those are really impactful for a learner. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I know we have listeners who are thinking, what's something that I could try tomorrow? I'm in it. I'm interested, but what would you tell them to do to try tomorrow? They could try tomorrow.
Well, this is a teeny, teeny, tiny bit of it. Just a tiny little, if you want to just get a tip your toe into it, just ask your students, because this is really, the students looking at their community or world, could be either, and asking them, well, what type of concern do you have that you see? Maybe you don't have the concern, but what concerns are happening in the world today that you're passionate about, and see what they say. And chances are more than one person is going to say the same thing, because this is just statistics, right? Like, maybe everybody will say something different, but maybe two people say the same thing, or three people say the same thing, and maybe that's what you do the project on. Because if they can get behind it and they're passionate about it, then this rolls out pretty easily.
Yeah. And I could imagine that you said you had like a whole school that was doing this, but you probably can reach out to one other teacher that you work really well with and say, hey, I think your subject might go well with this topic that the kids are interested in. Could we team up and try this together? Right. Like, I guess I'm trying to say you don't necessarily need a whole school,
right.
Movement for this to make it work and make it meaningful for your
Absolutely.
kids.
Yeah. If the kids are passionate about it and you find another teacher who's similar, have a connection with the topic, and yeah, it's much better. It goes much better when we work as a team. So yeah, and you should not feel alone, because you can always email me. I'll answer whatever questions you might have.
Nice.
That's good. Well, speaking of that, how can people connect with you and learn more, and also, get their hands on this book if they're like, I want to start, but I don't know what to do. So how are some ways that people can connect with you and learn more?
Yeah, you can connect with me through my website, www.drumsmartllc.com. So it's drum smart, but we're going to say that's emotional intelligence because that's what we're going for.
Yeah.
So Drum Smart LLC website, you can connect with me through Instagram, Facebook, and X, formerly known as Twitter. All at Drum Smart LLC. It's one word. I don't know if you can see that. One word, Drum Smart LLC. Or you can email me. My email is drumsmart101@gmail.com. And yeah, if you're interested in the book, you can hop on over to FLAT Books and check out project-based learning and music. And I think it's the other part of the title is creating music that impacts the world. And just look for Yeshima, Yeshima is how it's spelled. And it should just pop right up. So yeah. And if you have questions, like seriously, I'm an email away. I'm working on a dissertation. I live in a forest. I've got time. I've got time to talk. So
awesome.
There's that.
We'll make sure we put all of those links in the show notes so people can get to them, because I know that they will definitely want to, follow your work and just learn more, because I think you've made project-based learning while big and large, it also seems manageable and it seems accessible and it seems like something that we could all do. And I think that's really exciting. So we appreciate that.
Yeah. Anytime that you go to do a new thing, it seems overwhelming. But that's part of growth. And if we, jump into it one little bitty bit at a time, the end product is well worth it.
Yeah.
Just seeing your students flourish and fly and do these things that you didn't know that they could do is all well worth it.
Yeah.
I believe it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. We know our listeners will too.
Thank you for the opportunity to share.
If you liked today's episode, you will love the PassTheBatonBook.com website, where you can find free resources, coaching services, and how to support Pass the Baton. Speaking of support, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. Thanks again for listening.